Alright guys, thanks for tuning in today. What I wanted to do is take advantage of a really windy day. And I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, being that this quadcopter is, not much bigger than the size of your palm. But I really wanted to test, and look at that, we got a little bit of drift right away, which is, to be expected. To me, it seems like Rise programmed it where the vision positioning sensors don't kick in until it's probably about 3-4 feet off the ground right after liftoff. So just be careful. I actually almost crashed this thing a day ago when I hand launched it, and it almost went right into my deck. Luckily, it caught itself and locked itself into position, probably a good 2 inches away from hitting the deck. So right here, kicking it into sport mode. Let's see what she does. And wow, is it just fighting the wind. And you can tell as soon as you go into sport mode, this thing kicks out of the stabilized video. And so we are bouncing all over the place. But I just want to quickly do that to show you kind of what this wind condition is like. Wow, it is just whipping it all over. I hope I don't lose it here. Let's... Oh, lost a little bit of a connection there. There's a little bit of a lag. And then we're just going to click into the camera mode here to show you what the Tello is seeing. Just to see if I can get back here. Now that's one tip, is that when the wind is bad, put it into high rate mode like this, into fast mode. That's really going to help you cut through the wind. I have noticed here, actually, in flying this just now, that with this wind, minimum 15 miles an hour, gusts 20, probably a little bit over 20. The motors are not strong enough in the slow rate to actually get you back. So I had it forward, and it was actually going backwards. So I wish there was an easier way in the app to click into fast rate mode without having to first click into settings, because if you do get into kind of a windy emergency situation, it can be a little bit sketchy. So here, notice how that video is stabilized. We've got a biker there. I'm going to try to keep this as still as possible, and doing that, you just are very careful with the stick control. If you get too much of an angle with the Tello, it definitely will... The digital stabilization in the video will not be able to keep up. And right there, we got a little bit of a dip. And just, this is awesome, though. I mean, if Rise could expand the capabilities of this quadcopter just a little bit and stick with the same concept of, digitally stabilized, I'm okay with it recording to the phone if the connection were a little bit better. So, here I'm on the updated firmware version. So it's May 5th, and just got some new firmware, so let's go throw the sticks back up on the screen here, and we're going out a little ways, and it is drifting. Look at that. I'm forward, and I was actually going backwards, still going backwards. Wow, little disconnect there, and then it finally locked itself in. But that's just something to show how kind of crazy this is when it's windy out. And honestly, I've flown quite a few drones, and this thing does awesome. Just awesome for the size that it is. It is crazy. I don't know how technology has gotten to this point where you can spend $100 on something like this. It can be blowing like crazy. And look at how stabilized that is. Just pan around the truck here quick. Yeah, I call it a truck. It's not, but... it is what it is. So again, we got a little vision positioning may fail warning. And you know what's crazy? I just realized this. Flying it now, I'm getting less... I don't think I've had it once actually pop up that said vision positioning is unavailable. And I wonder if in the update they did something different, because I was flying it in conditions that were still pretty windy, but it was constantly failing, the vision positioning, and it was drifting. I've not gotten that error message, so I wonder if somehow in that update, if they did something different there. So we're panning around, and what a joy this thing is to fly. I mean, the only downside I could see is, since this is considered a toy grade, if maybe not everyone's going to have access to a smartphone or, a tablet, and if you'd have to ask your parents for it, that would be kind of a drawback. But I really wanted to test it this way today on my lunch break just to see, what does this do in bad conditions? Like, this is definitely windy enough where most people with common sense would know better than to fly. But of course, I take it out, I test these things, I thrash them around, so you know what to expect. So I'll just bring it down here. We got another error. And who's that ominous looking dude? We'll punch it here. Yeah, going with the wind, not a problem. Got a little bit of a drift, but wow, I mean, this thing is just getting blown, and that video is just rock solid. I still cannot get over that. What really makes this is those downward sensors and the digital stabilization. I mean, I really think that's the way of the future. I think if instead of having a gimbal that can fail, having this where it's digital really could save money on the cost of the quadcopter, as well as wear and tear. I mean, if you crash and you see crash stories from any of, the gimbaled drones or quadcopters, really the gimbal's the weak point between that and props, but props are cheap to replace. When you break a gimbal, that's usually sending it back to the manufacturer to fix. If you have a fixed camera like what's on this, there's just no concern of that. So, throw a 4K camera on it and bring it down to 1080p that's digitally stabilized, and it'll be as crisp as 95% of the people will need it to be without the moving parts of a gimbal. So we're going to bring it on in for a landing. Appreciate you guys watching. Please subscribe for more videos, and go ahead and hit the like button. We're going to do a hand landing here, and we're good to go. Have a great day.